We're continuing our discussion on eudaimonic happiness. And if you watch the last video, you'll notice it really does work when we put other people's feelings and their needs above our own. It makes us feel good. Well, I left off giving you an example of us having given gifts to this young family, and then the secret millionaire and the undercover boss. But then I ended by asking, what does this mean for super couples? So I'd like to get into that now. And if you like what you're hearing, please remember to like and share and subscribe to my channel. And as always, if you'd like to contribute, I'd be so honored. Link below in the show notes. So what does all of this eudaimonic happiness mean for the super couple? When applying these positive psychology findings to marital happiness, something amazingly powerful becomes illuminated. By seeking to meet first the needs of my spouse, focusing on the happiness of the other over the self, not only is my spouse happier, but I am happier too. I loved doing these interviews. Going into each new home and observing each different super couple always brought about so much peace and contentment for me, as I usually came to understand that super couples were skilled practitioners of eudaimonia within their marriages. I never wanted to leave those homes. Super couples made serving one another an art form. For too many years of my marriage, my focus was on what Danny was not doing for me or my unmet needs. Why don't you talk with me anymore? Why can't you buy me flowers? When are we going to watch my TV shows? Of course, they weren't usually this simplistic. They were often more abstract or unarticulated needs, such as, why won't you speak up anymore? Why won't you defend my honor in public? Why do you always tell everyone all I do is complain? Why can't you be more like me? While most of these may seem somewhat noble in terms of wanting to improve the marital relationship, their underlying implications were that my spouse should be the one to change to please me. Well, actually, he should. We all should. But my focus was still on me and my happiness, while his focus was on him and his happiness. In essence, I was still focusing more on what would make me happier in the marriage, which much less concern for what would make Dan happier. Dan was often doing the same. Why do you talk so much? I don't want to eat dinner at the table. I've had a long day. Why can't you just leave me alone for a while? I don't feel like going to that event with you. Why can't you just sit here and watch television with me? Now, let's be clear. Dan and I both believed we loved each other. I mean, we told each other we loved each other daily, and I'm certain we both wanted to be happy and happily married. However, if one simply focuses on the underlying nature of our statements to the other, a pattern would be noticed. Both Dan and I, like most every other unsuper couple, were focusing on the happiness of the self over the happiness of the other. I definitely wanted Dan to be happy, but my focus was on my own happiness first. The same held true for him. Though these statements may not immediately point to hedonistic happiness, they most certainly were, because their focus was on meeting the needs of the self above the other. Taking. Remember, hedonic happiness is extrinsic and based on external factors that I have little to no control over. And I had no control over Dan, nor he over me. Though I wasn't basing my happiness on wealth or material possessions, I was, in fact, still focusing on me. Super couples turn this thinking on its head. As I've said before, the same series of questions was asked in every super couple interview. 3 questions in particular helped me to better understand this practice of eudaimonia within these marriages. And those questions were these. Number 1, what makes you a super couple and yours a super marriage? Number 2, what do you have that other couples don't? And number 3, what to you are the main ingredients in super couple marriages? It only took me about 5 interviews to notice a pattern emerge, and that the responses to these were nearly the same every time. For super husbands, responses to each of these questions pointed always to their wives. We are super because she is super, said Larry. There was a time when my mother lived with us and my wife cared for her, even though she was a bipolar And was always trying to destroy our relationship," said Rob. "Maggie would never even think about letting us pay a penny of interest. She is exceptional at taking care of our budget and family." For super wives, it was equally as reciprocal. Jenny claimed, "This man, let me tell you about this man." Lisa said, "I adore my husband. He is definitely the reason we are super," and so on. Interview after interview, husbands pointed to wives and wives pointed to husbands as the reason for their superness. This was captured not in singular phrases, but in the overall tone of the interviews. There was a carefulness of speech, a complimentary dialogue, and naturalness where each spouse thoughtfully put the other spouse first. And this wasn't contrived either. This is just what I observed. But their selfless focus on their spouse wasn't just apparent in their words, it was apparent in their deeds as well. Super couples served one another regularly. One super wife talked about how she would get up and iron her husband's clothes at 5 a.m. every day because he liked to have newly pressed clothing, and then she'd go back to sleep as soon as he left. I asked why she didn't just iron his clothes the night before so she could remain asleep, and she responded, "Because he liked putting on newly ironed clothes while they were warm." I asked why he didn't do them himself. Did he expect her to do the ironing? To which she responded, "Absolutely not. He had been doing his own ironing for years. I like ironing for him because it gives us time together every morning before he leaves, and after all, he likes it. It makes him happy. Why would I not want to make him happy?" I guess she told me. I hear similar selfless responses when we talk about sex as well. While sex is important to each of these couples to varying degrees, and they all agree the richness of their sex lives has been greatly enhanced by their time together and years of growing in love for one another. The frequency of sex has changed over the years, some more often, some less often. But one thing remained apparent. Their sexual relationships were also enhanced by the selflessness of one or both spouses in these couples. Remember that at the onset of my research, and for many decades before, I held the idealized assumption that these super couples continue to have mad, passionate, 4 times a day lovemaking experiences, like they did in their youth, that we all did in our youth, when our love cocktails were still fully active? Of course, this notion was and continues to be fueled by the media portrayals we are exposed to. But these are super couples, the best of the best. Surely they experience something different than the rest of us. But alas, while their love cocktail hormones eventually leveled off like the rest of the population, one thing these couples continued to practice even in their lovemaking was the same selflessness they practiced in the other areas of their marriage as well. A few years ago, I was discussing this topic with one super wife. I asked her if she enjoyed having sex as much and as often as did her husband. She responded that sex wasn't important to her at all, that she could go significantly longer without it than could her husband. However, this super wife also pointed out that she couldn't remember the last time she'd refused her husband when he'd pursued her. Asking her why not, she responded, "Well, I know how much it means to him. It makes him happy. And if all I have to do is sacrifice a little time in my schedule to please him, then why would I not? Besides, whenever I need to go shopping or spend money on something that I want, he lets me because it makes me happy." I think I'm going to stop right here because I think that's a good place to stop. So many of us struggle in our sex lives, and I'm a woman. I'm a typical woman where it isn't as desirable to the women. We often say, make love to my mind before you make love to my body. And we have to be aroused, and it takes us a long time to be aroused. And men are aroused instantly, visually. But there is a sacrificial nature involved in what would make him happy. But we also have to be considering that in our marriages, in these super marriages, the husband is thinking, what would make her happy as well? And we think of this in sexual and non-sexual ways. What about your sex life? Are you saying, you know what, it makes her happy to sleep, or it makes him happy if I say yes? Or are you getting up and ironing, his pants or making her coffee? Not because you want to, but because you want to make them happy. Consider whose needs you're putting first. Ponder it. Let me know your thoughts, and we'll continue this conversation next time. I'm Dr. Christine Bacon. Thanks for watching this Bacon Bit. And as always, remember to live your life sunny side up.